Hey guys, so I know I said I was going to put up a finished video next, but I wanted to preempt my schedule and say that I'm better. I have snapped out of it. I feel a little bit more like myself. I have lipstick on, which is an excellent sign. That's how you know. So I wanted to record something to say thank you for all of the support and understanding and the comments and the messages, and it was totally overwhelming but so helpful. I was having a hard time with my parents being gone, and I still kind of am, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. I am back in action. So I wanted to film something today, but I don't really have anything. So what I decided to do was just share some of the things that I stitch along to. Some of them are I'm going to mention one show, but the rest are going to be YouTube channels or podcasts. So I don't know, if you feel like checking out some different stuff, or you just want to pretend to be me and stitch while you do the things that I do, then so be it. So the one television show I will mention first, it's the reason I wanted to make this video. It's on Netflix, if you have Netflix. If you don't, I'm sure there are ways of less than legally obtaining episodes of it. Not that I condone that, but it's BoJack Horseman. It's on Netflix right now, seasons 1 and 2, and it is outstanding. I watched the entire thing like really fast, and then now I'm watching it again. It is a cartoon. Well, it's an animated comedy, but it also just can really gut punch you with the drama. Like, it is not afraid to be a dramatic show and have dramatic choices being made. Anyways, so it's about BoJack Horseman, who is voiced by Will Arnett, and he was a successful television star in the 90s on a sitcom called Horsin' Around, very like Full House style, studio audience like type of cheesy sitcoms. He was a big deal in the 90s, and then now he is like a washed up Hollywood functioning alcoholic, unemployed actor, and it's so funny and so good. Like, I never thought I would be invested in these characters. Oh, and so I should say, obviously, he's a horseman. This is a show about anthropomorphic animals and also regular humans, so he is like a horseman. And his agent, played by Amy Sedaris, is a cat named Princess Carolyn, but there are also like regular humans in it. There are a lot of really funny like signs and like jokes. It's very Simpson-y. You can tell that the writers have put a lot of work into like the visual gags. And yeah, at the end of the day, I cannot believe I am so invested in the life of an imaginary anthropomorphic horse man. But I am. It's so good. The first season finale made me cry. Like, not tears going down the face, but like teary. And it was a total curveball. It's such a funny show, and it seems like it will be, I mean, you go into it thinking one thing, and then you're like, holy crap, I am invested in these weirdo characters and their weirdo lives. Okay, I've talked too much about it. BoJack Horseman on Netflix, or maybe on the internet. Check it out. I also have one honorable mention for a show, also on Netflix, Misfits. Misfits is on Netflix, and now this is not a show for everybody though. BoJack I think would be more acceptable. It is an adult show, like there's swearing in it, and Misfits even more so. But I would recommend BoJack to anybody. Misfits is not for everybody. It is a show about a group of community service workers, like youth offenders, and they're all working this community service, and then a storm hits and they all get superpowers. Stay with me. I watched it up until the end of season 3, at which part some of the cast started to kind of fall off. By, I think by season 5, there's been a complete turnaround. No one from the original seasons is on it anymore, but I still like it. I still think it's really great. It is a special, special show. It can be very abrasive. Like, there's a lot of swearing in it. There's a lot of sex in it. There's a lot of gore in it. But something about it is just so unlike anything I've ever seen. It is truly a gem, I think. And it also presents, like, it's set in Britain? I don't know where exactly it's set, but it presents a really lived in kind of feeling. All of these actors have different accents. It feels very real. Like, it doesn't feel staged at all. And yeah, oh my God, linguistically, there was one character in, I won't say how many seasons she was in because that might be a spoiler. Her name is Kelly, and she was one of the original Misfits. And she had, and I don't know if this is offensive, but this is how I've heard it referenced, a chav accent. And it is the most fascinating accent I've ever heard. It is legitimately hard to understand sometimes. Like, I've never heard anything like it. And the fact that she is a main character on like a relatively popular television show is awesome to me, because over here, it seems like everybody kind of looks the same and talks the same, and Misfits is not that. So yeah, not for everybody. I fully acknowledge that. But it did some very sophisticated character arcs, some very interesting science fiction-y turns. It's a little gem of a show, so check that out if you want, but definitely check out BoJack. So next I'm going to talk about YouTube. These are the YouTube channels that I go to every day, that I check every day, and I watch every video. Usually while stitching. And I'm not going to talk about any floss tube ones. You guys know the stitchers out there. You know more of them than I do, I think. So I don't think anyone needs any help. Certainly you don't, finding stitching channels. But the channel I will start with is Good Mythical Morning. And good mythical morning to you if you watch this show and you are a mythical beast like me, which is what the show's followers are called. Good Mythical Morning is an internet talk show that is hosted by Rhett and Link, and they call themselves internet-tainers, which I think is really funny and clever. They did music videos for a long time, like original songs, and then kind of their spin-off channel was Good Mythical Morning, which I think has become bigger than their original. It wasn't really a parody channel, but I'll call it that because it has a very similar sense to it. So Good Mythical Morning, there's a new episode every weekday, Monday to Friday. They're on hiatus right now for the summer. They always take a couple weeks off in the summer before they start a new season. I think they just finished season 8. There are a lot of episodes for you to watch, like a lot. I didn't check. I should have checked, like hundreds. There are hundreds of episodes for you to watch. And Rhett and Link are so likable. And sometimes the episodes they'll just like talk about a thing for a while, and sometimes they'll do challenges. They did, I was gonna say, to go watch the last video they did right before their season finale for season 7, I think, or 8. But that's actually probably not the most friendly, like, first impression of them, because there's a lot of dry heaving in that video. It's a pepper challenge. They have done all of the, like, eat a habanero, eat a California Reaper, and it is so funny. They did, so the last one they did was they tested different, like, anti-heat antidotes. So, like, they would eat part of a habanero and then they would drink milk. And then they would eat another habanero and then they would eat peanut butter, or whatever the internet says is supposed to help. But maybe don't watch that one if you have a sensitive stomach, because Link, poor Link, always retches in like every food challenge that they do. But anyways, I find them so likable and they work so well together. They're so funny and they have so many episodes. I will just watch their playlist constantly. I feel like I'm not giving you a great sense of what their channel is like. They just talk for like, the episodes are usually like 15 minutes or so. And then they have a second show called Good Mythical More, which is the show after the show, which is like the extras if you're interested in that. Sometimes the crew is in it. Sometimes it's just like an extension of the main episode that they just cut for time. But yeah, they did the fitness test. You know, the one that like middle schoolers do. They did that. They did a challenge where they held their breath for as long as they could. They have a lot of guests on their show now, actually. Usually just other YouTubers, but just recently they did a challenge with Amy Schumer and Bill Hader from Trainwreck, filmed at the YouTube space in, I don't know where that is, LA somewhere, probably. And they did a challenge called What Am I Smealing? Let me explain this to you. So they worked in pairs. Amy Schumer and Bill Hader were together and Rhett and Link were together. And what they did was one of them put on a blindfold and put their hands behind the other one's back, and the other one used their hands. And one person smelled and the other person felt, and they had to guess what they were handed. But it would be like a teddy bear stuffed with dog food with like a sock in it. And so, I don't know. It's just really funny. You guys should check out Good Mythical Morning. I'm going to stop talking about it. The other channels that I usually watch are gaming channels. I find Let's Plays to be really relaxing, kind of, because they're typically longer videos or longer playlists, and it's just someone talking over video games. I don't know why it appeals to me. I'm not a gamer. I don't play video games really. But for some reason it does. So I'm going to talk about a couple that I watch daily. One is Game Grumps. I have been a Game Grump watcher for a while, like since before John left. I like Dan better. Controversial statement. Game Grumps puts out 2 videos a day, every day. So there is always something to watch. They're just really funny. Again, they swear a lot and they talk about sometimes adult themes, so just be wary of that. But yeah, they just recently, one of my favorite playlists that they have is they just played Sonic Boom, which is a horrible game. Like it's glitchy and it doesn't make sense, and they just spent like 70 episodes just shitting on it and how bad it was, and it was so funny. They also have Game Grumps Versus, where the 2 hosts of Game Grumps, Dan and Aaron, play against each other for something. They have one-off games where they just play it once and it's usually a longer video. There's also a whole bunch of other stuff on that channel. Steam Train, which is a series involving games purchased off of Steam, so typically indie games. They have Grumpcade now. They have a whole bunch of little series. But they're really funny guys, and I find their channel really amusing. So that's Game Grumps. The next one I want to mention is no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to qualify by saying that it was less popular, but I don't think it is. Or that it was less generally appealing, but I don't think that's true either. What is going on with my hair? And that's Jacksepticeye. Jacksepticeye and I go way back. I watched him from when he had under 100,000 subscribers, and now he has millions of subscribers. So it is pretty cool to be like, I know that guy. I watched you when you were recording videos in your like cabin. He used to live in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And now you're humongous. I think that's so cool. He has a great accent. Word of warning, he yells a lot. He is like a screamer. He will yell at the screen. So it's not necessarily the most like calming video game experience, but I find it really funny. He plays a lot of really interesting games. He used to play a lot of horror games, which is the reason I started watching his channel, because I like horror a lot. I like horror movies, I like horror books, but I don't play video games, so that was a way for me to feel like I was playing them without actually playing them. And yeah, I just like his personality. He's a funny dude. Love his voice. Jacksepticeye. The last one I'm going to mention, I don't watch him that often anymore, but it's ZackScottGames. Dude uploads on the regular. If you were looking for a gaming channel that's very likable. He's just like, he doesn't scream. He doesn't really swear either. And he is just easy to listen to. And he has a million videos. Like, he has a playlist of Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare. That's like 400 episodes. And some of those, they're like half an hour long. It is so much video to watch. If you're just looking for something to like sit and listen to while you're stitching, his channel is like a gold mine. That's the other reason I like Let's Play videos, is you don't necessarily have to be like watching the entire time. You can actually stitch. It's more like a podcast. That's all I'm going to talk about the gaming. I have a couple of beauty channels I want to mention. This channel used to be a beauty channel, like a real shitty one. But beauty and makeup are obviously close to my heart. So I wanted to mention a couple of the ladies that I enjoy watching. The first one I am relatively new to. Sharon Farrell is her name, and she is so likable. And I just want to be her friend so much. She's a makeup artist. She has wonderful taste. I find her really funny. And something that is going to sound like, it's going to sound shady, but I honestly don't mean it to. She looks different without makeup on. I am so sick of seeing YouTube videos, beauty videos, where they show you their look and then they're like, let's get started. And then it cuts to them with no makeup on and they look the same. Like, their skin is beautiful and even and they don't have any under eye circles. And it's like, I don't want to watch that. Sharon is very, very pale like me. She's a redhead. And so she has like, she's translucent the way that I am. So when she has no makeup on, like, she has under eye circles, and that's what I want to see because I want to know how to cover those. So like, show me how you do it, Sharon. Anyways, I want to be that girl's friend so badly. I love her so much. She just got married. I am such a fan of Sharon's. The next beauty channel I wanted to talk about was, and I have no idea how to say it, Tarababyz, Tarababyz, I don't know. This girl has the makeup collection of my dreams. She lives on this ranch somewhere, and she like has, I don't know if she owns her, I think she owns her own business. She obviously she does well because she buys a lot of makeup and a lot of everything, like high-end drugstore. Her makeup room, she did a tour of it and it took like 3 hours. Her makeup collection is in these humongous industrial hot pink toolboxes. You know, like toolboxes with all the little drawers? That, except she has like 3 of them and they're all bright pink. And I die. Like, I've gotten away a little bit from buying as much makeup as I used to, or even enjoying makeup the same way, like applying it as I used to. But my goodness, I would love to just like ransack that girl's house. And something I love about her is that like every new collection, pretty much, she has a video on. Like, she buys everything. So not only will she show you the collection, so she'll swatch it all for you, and then she'll do a look for you. And her videos are typically longer. Her haul videos are like at least half an hour long, which I love. And her demo videos, like, she'll show you, say it's an eye palette. She'll show you the eye palette. She'll talk about it. She'll talk about the packaging. She'll talk about the colors. She'll talk about the price. She'll talk about the brand. She will swatch all of the colors on her arm so you can see them. And then she'll be like, I did this look with it, so stay tuned. And then in that video, she'll put on the makeup she's wearing. It's amazing. If you just want to watch, it's just such a nice like little like dose of makeup video to watch. It's like a perfectly encapsulated makeup video. It's all the information I want, and it's long enough for me to like be engaged with it and actually feel like I'm watching something while I'm stitching before I have to find something else to watch. I love that girl. And like I said, she hauls like a maniac. So I just live vicariously through her. That's Tara. The last one, I have a little list here. I didn't write this one on my list, but I feel like I should mention Pixiwoo. Pixiwoo was one of the first makeup channels I ever watched. I still watch it, but not with the fanaticism that I used to. It is 2 sisters Nick and Sam Chapman. And actually, Sam is the creator of Real Techniques, you know, Real Technique brushes. That's her baby, which I think is so cool because, again, I have watched that channel for a long time, and then her being like, I made brushes, and then watching them blow up all over the world was so interesting. They do look videos. So, like, now it's more so like smoky eye or whatever, but it used to be like drag makeup, Susie Sue makeup, like very distinctive, like David Bowie makeup. They did everything, and they did it so well. I'm not going to talk too much about that channel because I'm a little removed from it now. I'm not as much of a like crazy stalker of Pixiwoo as I used to be, but that's another channel where they have a lot of videos to watch, and not really hauls or some reviews, but mostly just looks. Like, here's my face, watch my makeup artistry. Okay, enough of that. The last kind of genre of YouTube videos that I wanted to talk about were card making videos. And this is something that I only got into in the last year or so, but again, I find that that style of video fits really well with what I want to watch while I'm stitching. I want like a long-ish video, and I don't know, it's nice to hear someone talk about something they like. And so card making introduces a whole slew of like products, like sequins. That's what began my sequin obsession. Sequins, stamps, dyes, inks, markers, glitter, like paper, so much new stuff to look at. The first card making channel I wanted to talk about is Jennifer McGuire's. She is like the YouTube card maker. She has an insanely detailed blog. She makes beautiful cards. I think she used to do like 3 videos a week or so. I don't know if that's still her jam, but yeah, she's easy to listen to. Her videos are like pretty long, which to me is a good thing. When I say that, I mean that in a good way because that's what I want. And yeah, super detailed. She'll show you a card. She'll show you how to make it like 4 different ways. I just find her very relaxing and easy to watch. And the second one I want to talk about is Kristina Werner. Kristina has a humongous set of playlists that I just recently went nuts over. She has one card playlist using all Simon Says Stamp products, which is a website where you can buy card making stuff. And it's like 200 videos long, and I just watched them all. Like, I love her. I love her voice. I find card making really interesting. It's not something I think I could do or would be really interested in doing, but it's just another art form that is cool to watch. Like, I find myself watching crochet videos and like lace making videos. Like, I just like watching anything that is long and detailed and interesting. So those are my things. Good Mythical Morning, gaming channels, beauty channels, and then card making is my newest obsession. The last thing I wanted to talk about are podcasts. Podcasts are perfect for when you want to stitch without the responsibility of like watching something and feeling like you're gonna miss something. Like sometimes if you're watching a show or a movie, I tried watching House of Cards while stitching. I've seen House of Cards. This was a while ago, like when it first started to get big. I tried to stitch while watching that, and it was impossible. Too many guys in suits. I didn't know who anybody was. Like, it was one of those things where I would look up and look down and look up and be like, what's happening? The good thing about podcasts is that it is purely auditory. So you can just listen and stitch and go about your business. And I understand that there are a million interesting, funny, insightful podcasts, and I only know a very small section of them, but the ones that I love a lot. The first one I want to talk about, my absolute favorite podcast of all time, hosted by one of my favorite people of all time, You Made It Weird. You Made It Weird is a podcast hosted by Pete Holmes, who is a comedian that I find hilarious. I would love to see him live. He had a short-lived show called The Pete Holmes Show that I thought was hilarious. Unfortunately, it was canceled, but I'm excited to see what he's going to do next because I think it was a really good springboard for him, popularity-wise. Anyways, You Made It Weird is a very long podcast, firstly. Average episode length is like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Like, this is a long haul. And what it is, it's veered away from its original format a little bit, but when it started, it was Pete Holmes talking to a fellow comedian, although now it's actors and musicians and what have you, as it's gotten bigger and more people know about it. And they would talk about comedy, which is very interesting to me. As I said, Pete Holmes is also a comedian. So they would talk about comedy. They would talk about sex or love. So like dating, marriage, relationships. And they would talk about God or spirituality. Or nothing. Like, Pete Holmes is very, very direct, and usually he would be like, okay, so at the end of the podcast, we usually talk about religion. So what happens when we die? Nothing. And then the guest will just get to talk about whatever they think. And there have been some really interesting discussions. It has made me cry, like weep. Oh my God, like, there was one episode, and I forget who the guest was, of course I do, but they were talking about grief. And she was talking about when her mother died. Oh my God, if this makes me cry, just talking about it, ugh. Okay, so her mother died, and she was talking about, it was her, and she had sisters, and her dad. And she talked about how her mom was on like life support for a long enough time that the decision had to be made whether or not to keep her on life support, which I cannot even imagine. And she talked about how before they made the decision about whether or not to keep her on life support, she passed. And she was talking about how thankful she was that it spared them having to make that decision. And then she talked about grief and how, like, Pete will talk about himself. I like that because I like Pete, but I understand that it might be irritating to people being like, just shut up. And he always says, don't interview me because I'll let you. He really will. But he was asking, like, what actually helped? If you think back to when you were grieving, what actually helped you? And she said, it was the people that were just around. Like, they would come downstairs and someone would be just sitting in the living room, like just reading or just being there, knowing that someone was there, not, what do you need? Can I help you? Let me cook you this casserole. Like, just the like silent support of people. And she talked about how she didn't know how her dad was dealing with it at all because she had her sisters. But then she said, I would go outside and see my dad mowing the lawn by himself. But then she said, but then I started to understand because I would see other men from neighboring houses, like other dads, presumably, or husbands, or their neighbors, just come over and stand on the lawn with him. Just in the same way that her sisters were helping her. It was so interesting, and it made me like openly weep when she was talking about losing her mom. But it's also made me laugh so hard. I almost choked once. Like, it is, oh my God, it's so funny. I could talk about it for a really long time. So I should probably just say that it is my favorite podcast. There have been hundreds of episodes. I don't know which one I could recommend to you because, I don't know what kind of podcast you want. And it's kind of all things to everybody. Just go somewhere in the middle. Don't pick like the first episode, although the first episode is really funny. It's Pete Holmes and Kumail Nanjiani, another comedian who's on Silicon Valley on HBO. And they're very good friends, and it is a very funny conversation. But it hadn't really found its feet yet. So give that a try. God, I could just talk about this for forever. But I love Pete Holmes. I love his curiosity. And I love how unassuming he is. Oh, something else I wanted to mention, religious-wise. I've mentioned that I am not particularly religious, and he is not either anymore, but he's searching. And I like to think that I am too. And so the discussions they've had about like spirituality and just like Western religion, Eastern religion, neuroscience, like all of it's kind of covered it's not just like, they don't just talk about like Christian God in every podcast. But I also wanted to mention, he came from a very, very religious background. Like culty is what he calls it now. And like he went to a religious school where like the men and women were separate, and like there was no dancing. They couldn't dance. Like it was very strict. And he got married very early to the first girl he kissed, and then he got divorced. And so now, as like a mid-30s man, he's kind of starting over in like finding out his religion and everything, because he's turned so far away from it because it kind of ruined his life. But I relate to that a little bit because like my dad is a minister, retired. And so I very much grew up like in a church and with church people, and now I've kind of backed away from that, and I don't really know why, but it's just a thinking podcast. Like it raises a lot of questions. It makes you think a lot. It's very easy to listen to for me. Shut up, McKenzie. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna try and go through. I have 3 more, you guys, 3 more podcasts, and I'm gonna try and be quicker than I just was. But that is my favorite one. So the next one I wanted to mention is Doug Loves Movies. This is a much lighter podcast. This is an entertainment podcast. It is hosted by Doug Benson, who is, and I should mention, a stoner. Like all of his comedy, he's a comedian, is very pot-based. So they do talk about pot in this podcast, but like only in passing. So Doug Loves Movies is a live podcast that's recorded every week with a panel of guests and a live audience. And it just involves those guests playing movie-based games. So if you go to the show, you bring a name tag, and that name tag involves your name incorporated into some kind of movie title. Mine's not a good name for that because I have a weird name. But like, I can't think of any now. It would be, oh God, no, I can't think of any. At some point during the show, Doug asks you to hold up your name tags. The audience holds up their name tags, and then the panel of guests picks a name tag, and then that's the person they're playing for. And at the end of the show, if they win, then the person whose name tag they have wins a prize or a bag of prizes. They've had some really cool guests, mostly comedians. Now getting into like television and movie stars. John Hamm has been on the 12 Guests of Christmas for the last like 3 years, and he's won some of it too. He's very good at these games. But the main game that they do is the Leonard Maltin game, and I'm going to try to explain it. It's so convoluted, and I think I would be terrible at it. Leonard Maltin is a movie reviewer, and he has an app, the Leonard Maltin app, that has his movie reviews in it. So however many stars he gave them, the cast list, the plot summary, etc. So the Leonard Maltin game is Doug picking a movie, not telling the title. The purpose is that you guess the title of the movie. He'll give you the year. He'll give you a couple of like really unhelpful, ambiguous clues that are meant to be unhelpful and ambiguous. And then he'll give you how many names are billed in that movie. So say we're talking about the movie Titanic. The guests don't know it's Titanic because that's the point of the game. But he'll say it came out in, 97? Did Titanic come out in 97? 1997. And Leonard Maltin says it was a triumph and visually stunning. So like that could be any movie, right? And he gave it 4 stars, 3 stars, I don't know, however many stars. And he lists 10 names. So that would be, in his review, the cast list. So it would be like Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet. Who else was in Titanic? I have a horrible memory. So it would be all the people billed in that movie, starting with the stars and going to like the not stars, like the people at the bottom. So the point of the game is, how many names do you think you would need, reading from the bottom, so not the stars, the like people from the bottom, reading from the bottom up to guess the movie. So if I say all 10, that means that Doug would read me every name billed in that movie, including like Kate Winslet, Leonardo DiCaprio. That means that's how I could guess the title. That's your opening bid. Then the next person would say 8 names. Then the next person would say 7 names, 6 names. So you're not getting the stars of the movie. You're getting like the lower billed actors. So you're saying how many of those names you would need based on the information you have to guess the movie that they're talking about. And so you like bid a number, and then the next person has the option to like call your bluff. So if you say 4, I could say name that movie, and then you would get the bottom 4 names in Titanic, and you would have to guess Titanic. You know what? Let's do this for real. Just a second. Okay, so I brought up the Wikipedia page for Titanic. This is not from the Leonard Maltin app, so this would not be considered technically sound in this game. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 names are listed in the cast list. So it goes Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, and then it ends with David Warner, Bill Paxton, and Gloria Stewart. So if you said 3 names, and then the person said name that movie, you would get those 3 names. David Warner, Bill Paxton, and Gloria Stewart, and you would have to guess Titanic. I would be horrible at this game, but some people are really good at it. And it gets really interesting when you get into negative names, like if you know the movie, if it becomes really obvious what the movie is, then you get into not only can I name the movie, but I can name the top billed actor. I can name the top 2 billed actors in order. And sometimes Leonard Maltin's order is like wonky. Or sometimes you think, like, it's just such an interesting, so say the movie is The Blues Brothers, and everybody knows it's The Blues Brothers, and you say, I can name that movie in -2 names, meaning I'll say it's The Blues Brothers, and I'll give you the top 2 billed actors. Well, what order do you think they were in? Who came first? So anyways, I find it so fun to listen to. Also, the categories are really funny. They're usually user submitted, like by Twitter, and usually, yeah, like the last category I really liked was movies starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Michael Fassbender, or both, and it was called Fast Batch Cumberbender. That was the category. Fast Batch Cumberbender. Anyways, they also play other movie-related games, like you have to guess how much a movie made. A new personal favorite of mine has been Last Man Stanton, which is a game where the audience picks a prolific actor, like Bruce Willis. And then each of the guests have to go one by one and name a Bruce Willis movie until they can't anymore. And then the last person standing, Stanton, wins. And it's way harder than you would think. Like, I think they did the entire Bruce Willis round and, like, no one said Die Hard or something like that. Like, you just, when you're on the spot, it's hard. Anyways, if you like movies and you like comedians playing games about movies, you should watch Doug Loves Movies. The next podcast I wanted to talk about is also a movie podcast. It is How Did This Get Made? And it is about terrible movies. The hosts are Paul Scheer, June Diane Raphael, who's Paul Scheer's wife and also an actress and comedian, and Jason Mantzoukas. And Jason Mantzoukas is one of my favorite people to listen to talk. He's so funny. So the 3 of them plus a guest, usually another comedian, will just talk about a terrible movie. They'll talk about all the things they found wrong with it. They'll talk about how bad it was, CGI effects, how much budget it had, how did people end up in this movie. The first episode was, the guest was Nick Kroll, and the movie was Burlesque. That's a good episode to start with. That one, start with the first episode because it's hilarious. They just bash the movie Burlesque for forever. They talk about how Cher looks like a wax statue. Nick Kroll calls it Wigs the movie, and it is Wigs the movie, let's be honest. And they talk about that scene where where Cher puts all that makeup on Kristina Aguilera and then turns her toward the mirror and she just looks like this painted doll, and Cher goes, beautiful. Anyways, okay, How Did This Get Made? Really funny podcast about terrible, terrible movies. And the last podcast I wanted to talk about, and God bless you if you've even made it this long, because this is for you, Letitia, it's RuPaul's podcast. RuPaul's podcast is called What's the Tea? And it is hosted by RuPaul and Michelle Visage, and they just talk about everything. They have talked about drag. They've talked about the show. They've had guests from the show on. They've talked about just, they have such interesting lives. I love RuPaul. RuPaul is like, I don't know, like my spirit guide, maybe. So yeah, what's the tea? It's usually funny, and like they just talked for a whole episode about lace front wigs one time, and I just could listen to RuPaul talk about anything because you know, Letitia, the like, it's RuPaul, like the laugh, and it's the best. All right, that is my totally not comprehensive is the word I was looking for. Not comprehensive list of everything I like to watch and or listen to while I'm stitching. Thank you for watching this whole thing if you watched this whole thing. Like I said, I didn't really want to make... No, I did want to make a video today, but I had no idea what to talk about, so I just rambled for 40 minutes. But I wanted to say again that I am back to my normal self or something close to it. So thank you so much for all of your support this last week when I was having a tough time. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.